to the League of Logic podcast, a podcast where you can learn how to think for yourself. If you'd like to learn more about what we're doing, check out our website at leagueoflogic.com. Inside the website, you will find study tools that will help you understand some of the topics we cover in these conversations. We also have an app that is available on the App Store and in the Google Play Store. Please leave us a rating and review on whatever platform you are using, whether you are following along the podcast or the app, or watching on Rumble or on the YouTube channel. Please like, subscribe, hit whatever button you got to push to keep up with us so you see new episodes that are coming out. Thank you for tuning in today to the League of Logic podcast. Now get ready for a much needed conversation about truth. You know what I realized?
What's that?
I don't think any of us have been formally introduced.
My secret identity
Yeah, we're trying to stay anonymous.
is
Anonymous.
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 Okay, all right. My call sign is the voice.
Yeah, I'm the woo guy.
I'm the fat guy.
Yeah. Woo! We forgot to do it, by the way. I had to. It's building up. Had to get it out.
had to get the phlegm out. Get some phlegm.
Woo! Yeah. So who you is then?
I don't know who I want to be, man.
I don't either. Struggle.
Everybody's got their thing. I've tried to get away from my thing, the burping thing.
Gumby.
All right, I'll be Gumby. I feel like it's bad. I don't know what Gumby is, but
He's a little green stretchy guy.
I've seen him. Is he a good dude or is he kind of like a bad dude?
He's kind of dumb.
I don't want to be Gumby.
I wouldn't. I don't think it's a compliment.
You can call me Bean, like Mr. Bean.
I like Mr. Bean.
I love Mr. Bean. Rowan Atkinson was a phenomenal actor.
He just
So-
makes noise all the time.
Oh.
I do safety meetings at where I work once a month, and I really thought about putting one of his videos up when he was using a drill to drill into the wall to put up pictures at a hotel one time.
That'd be awesome.
It's like, this is what not to do.
Oh, man.
Everybody had a great week.
My name is Brian, by the way, if you hadn't figured that out through all these podcasts, if you've been listening.
Yeah, mine's like a little, you have to go back and watch everything to figure out mine. And maybe I gave away my real name.
Andrew.
Nuts!
That's it. He's
Well,
changing his name.
Oh, yeah, well, you're Robin.
Yeah, that's it. That's me. Yeah.
We're all going to be doxxed now.
Don't forget David over there in the corner. Which, by the way,
No, there's no point now.
Ambit Plumbing and David provided us with this new swoofy studio.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's hard to be anonymous when we're posting
Yeah.
promotions.
Isn't it great?
It is great. I like it. But yeah, my week was pretty groovy.
Do anything special?
Well, I worked on the puppets thing some more.
Oh,
Projected date next week.
cool. Sweet.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing with puppets?
Basic Bible lessons for the church.
Nice.
So the things that Dad can't cover with going like down enough into like the story of Jonah and the whale or something like that. You know, normally he can't go down to the like the kid version almost, you know.
Like my level.
Yeah. Like David's level. That's what I was trying to get around of saying because I didn't want to
Didn't want to be
tear him down.
offensive.
But yeah, we're gonna do that right now. I don't want to give too much away because it'll destroy the mystery of it. But next week.
Nice.
But other than that, just been hanging out with Grandma at the hospital and making my marriage awesome. You know how it goes.
Nice.
She has no idea how lucky she is, does she?
No, she don't.
We need to tell her more often.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree.
Needs to be a sign or a T-shirt made that says, "Andrew's wife is the luckiest lady on earth."
Well, it'd be the truth.
You can make a GoFundMe page.
Yeah,
There you go.
to pay for your apartment when she kicks you out. Oh man.
Actually, Robin, I got a question for you. It's beard related.
Okay.
So does your beard, like, it doesn't look like it now, but did it like poof out and then fall, or did it like poof out and then you had to like comb it down, or does it just grow in that form?
So I am so manly.
I don't want to hear it.
I just commanded my beard to be like this, and it did. Yeah, that's actually a true story. Other than the part of me commanding it, it just does this naturally. I call it that it's God's sympathy, though, because I'm so ugly. He's using it to cover up ugly. If I could just train it to start about my eyebrow level, we'd be all right.
His face is just naturally greasy. And it
Cool. Yeah.
oils it.
Some blame it on my Indian heritage. Feather, not dot.
Indians don't grow beards.
I know it, but they have long, straight hair.
Mm.
But the Irish have red, and that's why it's red.
Yeah.
So I'm like that guy that came to the gun shop, filled out the 4473, and checked them all.
Mm.
I don't really know where my heritage is.
Robin's a leprechaun.
Almost. My stature's a little thicker.
No, thick leprechaun.
Yeah.
Cool. So you don't use any beard oil or anything like that?
No.
Or
No beard oil, no balm.
no combing? You comb it? You got to comb it at least.
Sometimes. I didn't this morning.
Yeah, and I can tell.
Is it out of control? I do this a lot. Yes. You having issues?
Well, not really. But I was talking with a friend, and he said that his just kind of like
Yeah.
poofed
A
out.
lot of people just grow pubic hair on their face.
Yeah,
That's nasty.
that might be what's happening to me, but it's not at that stage yet.
Yeah. No, I don't know. It just does.
Mm.
Well, all right then.
Good to know.
Yeah. Is it toxic?
I don't think so.
Toxic. Is it toxic? So stupid.
Wasn't that one of the attributes for being?
Toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Have a straight beard.
Yeah.
Well, it's straight.
No pun intended.
No, yeah. No. Boy. Someone's going to kill me. Keep this up. See that segue
That was
there?
beautiful.
That was
segue.
perfect.
Beautiful segue.
Oh my goodness! It was so good. I didn't
Is
even
that
recognize it. I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Is that the same thing as murder?
I don't know. Maybe it says if I deserve it. No.
Mm.
Oh, what a segue. There's a lot going around now about killing versus murder, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Is there any difference?
There would seem to be, according to the Bible. I don't know where.
Well, that's good. At least you know it's in there.
Yeah.
You could look for it if you wanted to.
Yep. If I really wanted to, I could be like, "Yep, that's the book I need to go to." Because
I think it's the most
question
common.
of killing versus murder is ultimately a moral question. Where do we get our morals from?
Yes, this is true. Yep.
Ta-da.
Moral question.
Moral question. What sticks out the most, I believe, would be one of the 10 Commandments, which says, "Thou shalt not kill." It says that in the King James Version, it says, "Thou shalt not kill." ESV says, "You shall not commit murder." So which one is it? That's the question. I think that's why we talk about this at our church, and that's where study is important. You're not looking for the interpretation of now. You need to find out what it meant when it was written, by who wrote it.
Mm-hmm. This is true.
That's where it takes a little effort, and I struggle in that department myself, I must admit. I don't study as much as I should. But if you're going to find the truth, it takes a little digging, and we talk about these episodes, the topics we talk about. Sometimes you have to dig a little bit to find out what the real truth is. And that's why I think that's why so many people don't know the truth in many situations, is they're not willing to dig for it.
Yeah.
There's another verse that's right around close by that thou shalt not kill, and it's 21:14. It says, "But if a man comes presumptuously upon his neighbor to slay him with guile, thou shalt take him from mine altar that he may die."
Sounds like capital punishment right there.
Sounds like self-defense. Kill him.
Then you go a little further down from that, in chapter 22, verse 2, it talks about midnight burglary. If a thief be found breaking up and be smitten that he die, there shall no blood be shed for him. Daylight burglary. In the next verse is, if the sun be risen upon him, there shall be blood shed for him, for he should not, or that he should make full restitution. If he having nothing, then he should be sold for as a thief. That's talking about killing somebody, breaking into your house in the daylight and at nighttime burglary. Both.
Yep.
Justifies self-defense is what it is.
Self-defense.
Yep.
I did actually go back and look up in the first one, Exodus 20, verse 13, I believe. Thou shalt not kill. It actually is referring to murder there. It's not just
How do you know that?
kill. I have some study tools, particularly the one I use is called eSword. So I dug into the meaning of the Hebrew, and that's what they tell me it means.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Premeditated.
That's the best way I can determine.
I think the biggest difference is in the Bible, a lot of people uses Matthew 5:39. They take it out of context, I guess, in a way. They say you should turn the other cheek, which Jesus said. There's a big difference between somebody offending you and you turning the other cheek and someone attacking you in self-defense. So I don't think there's the Bible doesn't allow us to kill someone in retaliation. And I think that's the difference between the two of them. There's retaliation and there's self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to wisdom is what it goes back to. Actually, you should be able to discern the two of them. In the big case this weekend or this past week, that's really how we have to look at that. The Rittenhouse determined that his life was in danger, or was it retaliation? And I believe the juries found that he truly believed his life was in danger and it was self-defense.
You're looking through, I guess the world's, we make laws all the time about everything. And what people don't realize is a ton of those laws that were written originally, in particular, came from the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Murder and the laws that we have on the books for a long, long time were solely based on Scripture. And so murder became the unlawful killing of a human being or a fetus with malice or forethought. That's straight out of the California Code Book, by the way. Or a fetus.
You got to be kidding me.
It's written in there. It's 187.A for the California Penal Code.
So how did they justify abortion? I don't mean to throw you off from where you were, but
saying.
that's crazy, man.
Yeah, I'm just saying. And then we have all kinds of different categories inside of this killing part. But did the person kill someone accidentally? Is the person trying to defend himself? Is he trying to prevent someone from entering into his house, breaking and entering? Is he trying to prevent the murder of someone else? We have all these different questions.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happens that through Scripture we get references to that. You remember the cities of refuge?
Mm-hmm.
If you're out chopping wood and the axe head flies off and it accidentally hits the dude with you and kills him, his brother had a right then to come basically, avenge his death or something like that.
Avenge me.
Yeah. I don't know if avenge is the right word, but he could come back and kill the guy that killed his brother. So that dude would run really fast to a city of refuge, which is where he could get a fair trial amongst people. So this is what actually happened. I didn't do it on purpose. Anyway, a lot of those laws that we have for self-defense and for killing by accident and manslaughter as opposed to murder, or they all came out of Scripture. And I'll put a bunch of references up so you can see those later. There's actually one article that was really good. It was from Cold Case Christianity, and it really spelled out the difference between killing and murder. And it's an older article. It was written in 2013, but I mean, God's word is timeless, so it's based on his word. So it doesn't matter when this article was written; it's still applicable based on the verses that it was using. I liked it; it was really good. But you turn that over to the Rittenhouse stuff that's been going on this week. Did y'all watch any of that trial at all?
Oh,
Yeah, I watched some of it. Yeah,
watched a lot of it.
You did?
Yeah.
If you watched the trial, were you surprised that they came back with a verdict of not guilty?
Yes.
You were? You thought he should have been?
No.
So you were not surprised?
I was surprised because humans nowadays are completely unpredictable.
Unpredictable, yeah.
Yeah. So
I
like
can see that.
there could be common sense and they completely deny it. And so
yeah.
But
if you were on the jury, would you have had trouble deciding?
No.
No. Me neither.
It was pretty straightforward from what I saw. I think the reason that the case or the trial was difficult was because it was so politically and racially charged. But as far as what happened,
Did you say racially?
why was it racially charged?
I haven't figured that one out yet.
Don Lemon says the same thing.
that's what they.
I know it was, but I mean, why? It was
apparently BLM hired the white guy that got killed. I think that's how it happened.
That's pretty something. That's pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah, they were like, we don't want a black guy to die, so we're gonna hire this white guy. Go chase that other white guy with an AR. Let's see what happens.
Even after the verdict, they are trying very hard to create a racial division amongst the decision.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying that if, although it's hypothetical, right? If a black guy had been the one with the AR-15 and killed people, they would have thrown him under the jail.
No, not necessarily.
I don't think so. And so somehow or another, because there was a white guy with an AR-15 who was attacked by other white guys, and they got killed. And he ends up in jail, and he goes to a trial. It's headed by a white judge and a white jury with white prosecutors.
We don't know
And
who
white
was in the
defendant.
jury, though, do we?
The majority of them were white. I think there might have been a couple of black people on there, but the majority was white.
Okay.
And so they look at it like, well, that has to be racist. And I'm confused as to how it's racist when just a bunch of white people.
Maybe it's just racist because it was BLM's right.
Yeah.
Still doesn't make sense.
No.
I think the other thing that, and I saw that Alan Dershowitz, how do you say his name? Dershowitz. Alan Dershowitz is a constitutional lawyer, I guess, attorney. He works at one of the big colleges, which one it is. It's at Harvard, something like that. Anyway, and he is very much a liberal. Very much. However, he's one of the few liberals still that will tell you what the Constitution says. And so he made a comment, which I was happy to share with all my liberal friends.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, if you have allowed yourself, he said, if you watched the trial at all and went through all the basis of the evidence and everything, you were not surprised that the verdict came back to be not guilty.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you allowed CNN or MSNBC or any of these mainstream news outlets to inform you as to what was going on, you're probably sitting around pretty shocked.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, stop letting the media tell you what to think.
Yep.
Oh, man, there's that guy. Finally. Tucker Carlson had a little skit thing on it, too. I don't know if I can even do this. I would talk a little
I
bit.
went and watched the original videos and watched them over and took a look at them myself. Because I don't like listening to anybody and just agreeing completely with any particular person without, seeing the video myself that they're basing it off of.
It's true. Tucker Carlson had It's about a 15-minute spiel. You should go watch it. I'll put a link to it. And basically it is Rittenhouse facts are different than what we were told. That is absolutely true, man. And so just through this article, there were several different quotes. Oh, look at that. Advertisements. We got to figure that one out.
It's got some pretty groovy music, though.
Sorry,
man.
We got a pretty good editor.
Yeah, we can chop that out.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson. Tonight, people are totally absorbed in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, and you have to.
Well, we could just play 15 minutes of Tucker Carlson telling you all about it, but then we wouldn't get a chance to talk, and that defeats the purpose of having microphones.
That is true.
Anyway, so there it is. So Tucker Carlson, he writes a couple things. We'll just let that go for this
Gave
time.
you just enough to perk your interest.
Just enough to perk your interest.
Good evening, everybody. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that was astonishing to me, which I thought was actually, I mean, just flat out hilarious. There was a whole bunch of charges that were filed against this cat. I mean, there was like 6 different charges, maybe. A lot of them included the actual 2 guys that got killed, and then one of the guys that got shot, and then another one was a couple misdemeanors about trafficking a firearm across state lines, which, by the way, was absolutely false. And then one that got me was the best for me was they tried to charge him with an illegal possession of a firearm, and the wording was the legal jargon, but the layman's terms, it was a short-barreled rifle. And so it was illegal for him to have it. Nobody ever measured the length of the barrel. And you know when it was discovered that it was not an illegal rifle?
Probably after.
In the courtroom while the jury had already left to start their deliberations. And the judge is going over different things. Or maybe it might have been before. Anyway, it was right at the end of the trial. And the judge starts asking the prosecutor guy, did you measure the barrel length? And they were like, oh, man. So that everybody measured it. And what they found was it was perfectly, it was a Smith & Wesson M&P 15. It's like you go buy at the store. It's not illegal. So he's like, well, okay, dismissed. Now, don't you think if you were a prosecutor, an attorney of any kind, and you're trying to prove a case, for instance, let's just say that I'm going to sell you a chocolate cake, but I put a dog turd on the top. But it's not really a dog turd. It's made out of frosting. You get mad and you sue me and you say, he put a dog turd on my... Wouldn't you want to make sure that it was actually a dog turd?
I'd want somebody else to make sure it was a dog turd.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't taste it to find out, The point is whatever it is that you're trying to accuse someone of and you're going to charge them with a crime, wouldn't you want to, like...
That's what happens with the show trial.
It is.
I mean, that's what this was.
Unless you have like this stack of cards and like, let's see here. Oh, try to get them with that. That might go through. How about that one? And
Yeah. I was listening to a guy this week talk about it. It was Bongino. He does a pretty good job. He used an example of counterfeit money. He said you arrest a guy for passing counterfeit bills. Only the bills he were passing were not counterfeit. But you charge him with passing counterfeit bills anyway. Wouldn't you want to make sure that the bills are counterfeit before you show up? I mean, how embarrassing has that got to be?
Yeah. Well, did you
It's
also
embarrassing
see
if you get found out?
where the prosecutor picked up the firearm and pointed it at the jury
Yeah.
With his finger on the trigger.
with his finger on the trigger?
That was great.
Wow.
We can really trash on these prosecutors. But the media and many politicians had already convicted Kyle Rittenhouse before prosecution ever brought charges anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was kind of forced.
Brian Scarborough from MSNBC, what he said prior to. Here we have a 17-year-old kid, underage, said he brought an AR-15 because he thought it was cool. He drove across state lines or had his mother drive him across state lines. He appointed himself a militia member. He goes around and he ends up unloading, 60 rounds? This is the story that the media was telling you.
And everything so far has been a lie.
Yeah. And so, of course, Tucker Carlson goes back. Total dishonesty in the summary. He wasn't a militia member. He was a lifeguard. Did you know that?
I know he was a lifeguard.
And he worked in Kenosha.
And he worked in Kenosha. His dad lived there.
And his best friend.
Do you know how far away Kenosha was from his house? About 20 minutes. You know how far away Kenosha was from the dudes that got killed? 1,200 miles.
That's a long way.
Yes.
But that's how the Black Lives Matter stuff works. They pay people from a long ways away to come over, so nobody knows who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
the most amazing claim, which we're hearing right now, is that Kyle Rittenhouse is a bad because he, quote, drove across state lines. Think about that for a second. Drove across state lines, made him bad.
Makes sense.
So Tucker Carlson, hilarious. So the very same people who told you for years that borders are by definition white supremacy now claim it's some kind of moral offense for an American citizen to enter a contiguous state.
What state is 1,200 miles wide?
There's no one.
Maybe Alaska, but
maybe. Yep.
And
60 rounds? I'm sorry.
At 17 years old, it was legal for him to have a long arm.
It was.
So,
And he wasn't the one that bought it because he thought it was cool. They know who bought it. And that dude, whoever, I can't remember who it was, but that dude actually had it when he got there.
I want to talk about a different aspect of this.
All right.
So I don't know the complete situation here, but riots going on, ruckus happening in the streets. Should you be out there in the first place?
I've heard that argument while talking to different people, and I think it makes good sense because for me, if something was going down in Smithfield, I'd probably stay home because good sense, I've heard it from somebody today, if you don't want to get in a car wreck, don't drive. If you don't want to, go out and potentially end up like Kyle Rittenhouse, don't go out and try to stop riots because that's the police officers' jobs and the local government's job. So it makes good sense, but I don't think it's not illegal. You can walk out there just like everybody else.
It wouldn't pertain to the case because the rioters shouldn't be there either.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right.
So, you can't use that as a...
What if your dad had a business downtown Smithfield or a house and there was a great big riot coming downtown and your dad, and for whatever reason, not that he's a scared man because he's not, but I'm going to use that as an example. Your dad's worried. He's scared about his property. He says, Andrew, would you mind coming into town and hanging out with me tonight just in case these rioters get out of hand around my house?
So having it around his house or around
his business, his house, his stuff.
Well, I think there's a big difference between.
He's worried about his stuff, whatever it is. You're going to say, Dad, don't worry about your stuff. Just go hide in the basement. I'm not saying it's a wrong answer.
Stuff can be replaced. People can't. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the videos, Kyle Rittenhouse was extremely lucky that the outcome happened, not with the whole court case, but that he actually made it out alive.
Yeah.
Very, very lucky.
So here's here's another aspect to throw in the mix of that. And that is already what you have had happening prior to this going on was this whole defund the police and you can't use law enforcement because they're a bunch of racist bigots and they don't like black people or anybody else for that matter. And so law enforcement is basically out.
Mm-hmm.
Then what? I'm not saying there's a right or a wrong answer to this, but I'm just saying these are all things to consider if you're talking about what are we going to do during a riot time.
Well, one thing that I think about is whenever we have big hurricanes come in, you have some people that are like, I'm going to bunker down at my house. And then some people that are like, hey, I'm going to go somewhere that's safe, more inland to where I'm not going to be affected by this. Mm-hmm. Someone could view that as the same perspective with a riot. There's a force that's coming and you can prepare beforehand to protect your business, your house and stuff like that. But then for me, at the end of the day, it's coming. Stuff can be replaced. People can't.
So the size of the illegal activity would then justify whether or not it was okay to enforce the law?
Okay, hold on. You went way too fast for me.
So the size, the scale of the illegal activity.
It's like 20 people versus 200 people.
So if one man decides he's going to break into a shop, is it okay for the police to go and get him?
Oh, yeah.
20,000 people decide they're going to break into downtown, is it okay for the police to go down there and get them?
I would probably call bigger forces like the National Guard and stuff like that. But
What if you don't have time to call the National Guard because the government is against it? Who does it?
it's still illegal, and it still should be punished. But I mean, if one person's standing up against 200,000, I would say, even though you're right, you would almost be a fool to run in there against that 20,000 expect.
But our heroes, our police officers, have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
They're expected to do that, to go up against the odds whenever they're outnumbered.
Yeah.
And so, for instance, I'll just give you, for instance, this is just this is absolutely an opinion, by the way. This is not a right or a wrong thing, and don't do it just because Robin said so. But we had a march through downtown Smithfield not too long ago, a year or so. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I heard about that.
And everybody was worried to death that it was going to be totally out of control. And the sheriff's office and everybody, it was like all hands on deck because they had no idea what the scale was going to be. Well, I'm just going to tell you, frankly, I owned a gun shop for a long, long time. I got to become really good friends with the law enforcement people. I love the law enforcement guys anyway. I think they're fantastic. I think they're taken for granted. And just in conversations that I had the day of, I could sense a sense in them, not that they weren't scared. They were going to do their job, but they just felt, I don't know, there was so much bad talk about the police. Police are bad, police are bad, police are bad. Yet here they are putting their life on the line to try to defend us. I just felt like, man, they're like deflated kind of, like, and so I went because they needed my help.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like they did. And nothing happened, nobody got killed or whatever. But that's what I'm getting at. This scale of a illegal activity, does that scale say, okay, well, if it gets past a certain number of people showing up down here to riot above what the police can handle, then everybody should just go away and let it happen? And that's the approach that a lot of people took, especially with all that looting and fires and stuff that went on in, Washington?
Mm-hmm.
and all this Black Lives Matter stuff. It's like, well, just get out of the way and let them do whatever they want to do, and it'll go away.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, that's like when you're trying to train a kid and you just let them do whatever they want to do because one day they'll grow up and they won't do that anymore. How well is that going to work out for you?
Yeah. Another thing is that we live in a culture where now, good is being punished and evil is being rewarded. 100%.
Yeah.
And if you're not standing on the right side, of the law, with like I could understand why you would stand with the police. That almost seems almost to me, it seems like a cinematic movie scene. Forces of evil building up, forces of good start building up. But would you have been out there if the police were removed? If, let's say, in Johnson County, the police had been defunded, nobody was there, would you have still gone out?
Maybe, probably.
I tell you, there's a couple things that keeps getting skipped, and I didn't see this come out in the court case. And they flashed a couple things about Kyle Rittenhouse, and it's very specific to it. First of all, the prosecutor tried to say that he provoked everything that happened by carrying an AR-15.
Right.
The truth is, the boy was 17 years old. It was legal for him to have a long gun, and he could carry it. He could not carry a handgun. That's number one. Secondly, if you looked at the flashes, they've done some of this in news articles. I spent a lot of years in fire rescue and as an EMT. We're trained to go into places like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you got a 17-year-old kid, in my opinion, he's still a kid.
Yeah.
That's gone through at least junior fire training. He's a lifeguard, so that means he's had Red Cross or at least Red Cross training, CPR, basic first aid. And this is then exciting to him in his blood, now. And he's ready to go out and help people. And because of the dangers that are out there, he is smart enough to carry something to defend himself. He went out there to help people.
Absolutely.
He's a lifeguard. All right. And he's had some basic training in fire service, and he has some training with the police department somehow. But he wants to go out and help people. He couldn't put a firearm in his pocket because it's not legal for him. I believe that's why the kid went out there.
Absolutely. Well, he said so even.
That's
Thomas Binger, the assistant district attorney. There's the quote from that. But you decided you need to run because of the fire on a Duramax. Kyle said yes. And the Binger says, why? What was so urgent? And Rittenhouse says, well, there was a fire. Binger says, well, why do you feel that you should go around off 59th Street car source property and put out fires? And he said, well, to make sure my community didn't get burnt down and help. And then the attorney says, well, now when you say your community, you mean Kenosha? And he said, yes. He said, again, you're from Antioch. You're not living in Kenosha at the time when it was all happening, right? And he said, well, my dad lives there. He was there to help out Pops.
I think that's what changes things is you got to know all the details. If it were just simply there's a riot going on and he had nothing to do with it and only property was being damaged, like you mentioned earlier, then that's where it'd be like, well, if it's just property and there's no reason to go, but you're going to help people to keep fires from, there's people that live in there in that town. That makes a big difference. Well, and knowing the details makes a big difference.
A natural disaster, hurricane, tornadoes, I mean, those are things that are weather related. They're not breaking the law when they show up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, hurricane off the coast doesn't say, man, you didn't have the Beavis and Butthead breaking the law. None of that.
Like, screw the government.
Screw the government. I'm tearing up everything. It doesn't. No, that's not even the same. A group of people with a distinct mindset to go in and destroy a neighborhood because they're not happy with a process or a decision that was made. Imagine what a world would look like if every time a decision was made on any legal platform, government-wise, the people who did not like it took up a bunch of sticks and bricks and started just burning down everything. How out of control would the world be then?
Be pretty out of control.
So then how long do you allow that to continue?
Shouldn't.
It shouldn't. Yeah, it shouldn't at all.
I think one of the big problems is that is not talked about often or at all in the mainstream.
Nope.
And that's something that does need to be talked about. You know, we talked about last week, you know, that it's the man's job to take care of his family. Well, this is a situation to think about, you know, if something like that is coming to your town where your family lives, how are you going to handle it? What are you going to do and not do? Needs to be thought through ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the places that I get caught up in because I have a lot of me pulls towards, you know, be a man, you know, save the world, all this stuff. Then also, you know, be a patriot and also, you know, be the protector. And I get caught up in all those different things. But what always pulls me back is whenever I went to go get my concealed carry in Utah, the guy he went through the whole class did a phenomenal job. But at the end, he said, it's not your job to be a hero. And I was like, that's pretty interesting. And he said, whenever you got married or whenever you had kids, you made a promise to put them first. And he said, and he gave some situation about a burning building. He said, you can run in to a burning building and see if anybody's there and hopefully save them. Or you can call firefighters, which are trained to come do that stuff. Now, someone's life might be lost in that time gap. But what if you die in there? Well, now you have a widow wife and however many kids you left behind. You know, so, and that put a lot of things into perspective. And I haven't completely figured that out for me of where the line is. I need to be a patriot and stand up for my community, or my wife and my kids and my family come first. And I haven't figured it out. And that's probably one that's going to take a really long time for me to figure out.
That night in Smithfield, my wife knew that it was tearing me all to pieces.
Mm-hmm.
but I did not leave until she said, I know you need to go, so go. Yep. So it was a priority. But at the same time, man, it was driving me insane. And I would contend using the guy. Oh, by the way, I taught the concealed carry a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
We say a lot of things in the class that are not wrong, but they are also to cover our own backside in case you ever get in those situations. They can't. Well, my instructor said to go be a hero and save everybody. You know?
Yeah.
But I would contend, and David will tell you this: if you were to ever show up in a spot where there was a tragedy of a fire and someone was in it, you'd have a hard time not wanting to respond to what you heard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't think it's because you want to be, you know, like, here I come to save you. No, I don't think it's that. I think it's just in your good-natured human part, there is something about us that wants everybody to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're just a sick dude, right? And so I think that, I mean, I don't know if you've ever driven up on a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
People in the car, and which I mean, I've that's happened to me a couple of times. I don't say I'm staying way back here. I'm just gonna call the police because they're like, help.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're just like, should I help them? Yes. You know, you should help. It makes a difference when you get into those type situations. But as far as the Kenosha dude, one of the other things that was mind blowing to me about this through their prosecution was that they said that if you were to arm yourself for protection, you lose the right to self-defense if you're trying to protect yourself with someone who's not armed.
So you can only protect yourself when you take all your defenses away first.
They literally said during the trial that he was a coward who was scared to go fisticuffs with the dude.
They
A 17-year-old versus
the other
a
guys,
30-year-old man.
The other guys had guns too.
Oh yeah, but they didn't. The mainstream tell you that.
Does that conflict with Jesus' words? I think it does.
Yeah.
Luke 11:21. When a strong man armed keepeth his palace, his goods are in peace.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jesus taught that. Right before he was I think we've talked about this before. Jesus told his disciples they didn't have a sword to go sell their cloaks and get one.
Yeah.
And shortly after that, he was arrested by the Romans. And that's when Peter pulled his sword out and cut one of the Romans' ears off, which was against, Jesus' will. He healed the man. But it's so clear in the Bible that being prepared is important.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. The situation with Peter cutting his ear off, Jesus had said, sell your cloak and buy a sword. But then in that situation, he tells Peter, rebukes him, tells him, put your sword away. And something I had not thought about in that situation before is that Jesus had told them this was going to happen. Mm-hmm. He'd already told them ahead of time this is going to happen. And that's why Jesus was saying, this is supposed to happen. This is my will. Not
to mention the fact that Jesus didn't need protecting.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, he told them all, don't you think I could call 10 legions down here, man? What are you doing? I don't need your protection.
Yeah. Are you Jesus? I am.
Yeah. Everybody falls over.
Oh, what? Must be an earthquake.
And
Who are you?
And then they get back
really?
up. They get back up. Who are you?
Yeah.
But I believe that was Kyle Rittenhouse's sincere intent, was just for self-defense. Mm-hmm. If he got in a bad situation, I don't think the boy was looking for anything like that.
He was wearing medical gloves and carrying a medical bag in the video.
Yeah.
He had already got, in one of the videos, he got hit in the back of the head as he was trying to run away. So
I got pictures. I'll put this article up of the drop kick dude. I'm not going to do it now because their ad's going to play because I got to figure that out. But I got the drop kick guy. It comes up and knocks him on the ground, and he actually fired a couple shots at him, but he was in such a situation he couldn't. That guy tried to grab his gun. By the way, if you're talking about self-defense and arming yourself up, one, be trained, okay, because that's important. Gun safety and gun training is key. And he was trained. If you watch the pictures, he didn't have his finger on the trigger ever. He had a harness that was attached to his gun so that no one could take the gun away from him.
Mhm.
That's a big deal, man. I don't care what anybody says about that.
Watching those videos, that kid did an excellent job.
Yeah,
Yep,
and
it was
if you're
great.
not trained and you get in any type of situation like that, whether it is intentional or unintentional, you are going to revert back to whatever training you have. And if that training is zero,
Mhm.
you're in bad shape, buddy. But the Baron guy, Binger, his attorney, Binger says, they have to convince you that Joseph Russenbaum was going to take the gun and use it on the defendant because they know you can't claim self-defense against an unarmed man like this. You lose the right to self-defense when you're the one who brought the gun. By the way, having mentioned that, I just want to tell you a little bit about Joseph Russenbaum.
Yeah. Just a few
Mr.
things.
Pedophile.
Just a few little tidbits of information.
He had just been recently released from a mental hospital. And for some reason, decided to join a riot. Sure, it had nothing to do with money or Black Lives Matter or any of that.
Yeah, probably
Okay,
not.
nothing. To do with
Please disregard that.
it. Yeah, don't count that. He was also a pedophile, convicted, right?
And not just a one time.
And well, you don't have to rub it in, man. This guy's sensitive. He's in a mental hospital.
Dude, you got a problem.
You do have
You got
a
big problem.
Yeah, got a big problem. By the way, if you ever saw someone molest a child, would you kill him?
I think that's another level of evil.
I don't know, man. I don't want to. If you say it out loud, if you say yes, now we've premeditated. So if it ever happens, you go to jail. We thought about it and we said, yeah, we'd kill him. You know. I got it's a couple of different things here. Justifiable killings in the Old Testament. Exodus 22:19. Basically, whoever lies with an animal shall be put to death. That's gross.
Yeah.
Right. And Leviticus 20:27, a man or a woman who is the medium or spiritist among you, let them be put to death. Boy, we got a bunch of those freaks running around today, don't we? That's the whole witch trial thing, though. You know, you got to be careful with that. You're to stone them. That's what you're supposed to do to those guys. If a man practices homosexuality, having sex with another man, as with a woman, both the men should be put to death. These are old Levitical laws, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And Russenbaum was convicted, right?
He was convicted.
Raping a girl. A
Yep.
minor.
If a man committeth adultery with another man's wife, yeah. Mm-hmm. There's also ones for self-defense. Exodus 22:2-3. We just read those. Thief comes in. By the way, these are all the verses that were actually used when they started writing laws about it. Did you know, I didn't know this, but one of my buddies was telling me one time that there's actually a law. I didn't find it. I got to look it up. I'll try to find it, put it in the notes. That talks about killing someone in like a heat of passion, right? Even if it was not, if it's killing not for self-defense and it's, but there is a heat of passion. For instance, you walk in and your wife is with another man and you just snap.
That's the retaliation I was talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's when you turn the other cheek.
Yep. You're supposed to.
Supposed to.
But if you have this mental breakdown, then there is a heat of passion that will give you a lesser charge. People understand. So, I mean, like I said, there's tons of laws that are written, but if you'll start going back through the basis of where those laws came from about killing, you'll see they all line up. They came out of Scripture.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. Where do morals come from?
Exactly.
Where does wisdom come from? And what other source can you find coherent wisdom on every aspect of life?
Yeah.
Well, y'all are getting ready to hit it in the James study, chapter 3, verse
Yep.
17.
It's coming.
Wisdom comes from heaven. Being able to discern these things, the difference between retaliation and self-defense.
How do you get this wisdom? How do you know how to approach situations like this? There has to be, you can't just read a book once and you got it all.
Yeah.
It's got to be a continual thing. You've got to continually be seeking wisdom, looking for it,
Engaged in the word.
engaged in the word.
Absolutely. Oh, it's like everything else you want to do. If you want to be good at anything, you have to practice.
Use it or lose it.
Yep, you have to practice. If you want to be good with a firearm and be a proficient, you have to train and practice with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing when it comes to God's word and how to be able to apply. How can you apply something you don't even know what it says in the first place? I mean, there's a good question.
Yeah.
The whole world is lying to us constantly. We saw that tremendously through the whole Rittenhouse self-defense. Was it a killing in self-defense or was it actually murder? And so it was a great trial. And I say a great trial. I don't mean great like good. I mean great like scale, big. It was a tremendous trial for law and order. In fact, whenever that shooting took place last year, I made mental note, told my whole family. They were sitting there, we watched it, it was happening, we were seeing it happen. And I said, you need to pay attention to this because this is going to set the tone for, are we allowed to defend ourselves in the future?
Mm-hmm.
And it absolutely did, right? Can you imagine what it would have been like had he come back as guilty?
Oh, yeah.
And so we have, and I can't even list all the articles that I had read this week about particularly, I mean, it just happened Friday, right? Since Friday, numerous articles from all these gun control advocates, the ones who think that there should be more gun control, man, they are disappointed. They thought for sure that this case was going to give them the door that they needed to be able to walk through to get rid of the assault weapons ban that expired. And now we can, you know what I mean?
They were able to go after the AR-15.
Yep, they were able to go after it all again. And the reason why they thought that this was okay, whether they were in on it or not, was because of what the mainstream media was doing up front. And they had made the decision for the trial from the very beginning, before the trial ever began. They were telling you, all right, this kid, illegal this, illegal that, murder this, murder that, white supremacy, racist. I mean, all of these things. By the way, did you know that he had friends there with him? Did you know that one of those friends who also had an AR-15 just so happened to be black? He's such a racist. How dare he hang out with black people with an AR-15? Right.
And if you think they weren't going after AR-15s, the prosecution called a hollow point an exploding bullet.
Yeah, it's so funny.
I mean, truth be told, AR-15 is not the ideal self-defense weapon because the weapon was that caliber. It's a .22 caliber, and it was designed to maim, not to kill. Because if you shoot the enemy on the battlefield and you don't kill him, it takes two of his buddies to come rescue him. And that was the purpose of it. I mean, you can kill with it, no doubt. But just firing bullets as they do on the battlefield, it's really meant to maim.
Mm-hmm.
And a hollow point from a 223 may mushroom out to what, a size of a 380 or 9mm at the most. It's just not a killing machine like they put it out there.
It's not designed for close combat.
On top of all the rest of it,
it's a great defense weapon for clearing a house, or So he wasn't totally wrong with in having it, other than when someone's right up on you, it's really hard to get a 16.5-inch barrel around anywhere. You just can't move it around like you're supposed to.
And it doesn't have that much knockdown either. It just flies right through somebody.
Well, I'm just going to tell you from what I have learned in watching ballistics and stuff is I don't want to be shot with nothing. Yeah, I don't care I don't care what size it is. I remember having the gun shop, people come in, especially like smaller people or ladies, and they were scared of recoil and firearms. It had a lot to do with them, and so I would always take them over. I said, look, this is a .22, very, even in the handguns, very little recoil. And they're like, yeah, but it's a .22. Will it really do anything? And I said, well, just stand over there and let me shoot you with it, and we'll see. She said, no. I said, see, nobody wants to be shot. It doesn't matter what it is. And I promise you, if you shoot someone with a .22, they'll stop.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they're all jacked up, and in which case, if they're on that kind of stuff, you can shoot them whatever you want. My dad shot one guy with a .22 one time. I don't think I'm supposed to talk about it. Wasn't my dad.
It was a friend's dad.
But yeah, it was a friend's dad. Yeah, but that was absolutely self-defense.
Hmm.
In fact,
friend's cousin's brother's son's dad.
it's and we have on the books right now plenty of laws to keep firearms out of the hands of people who don't need to have firearms.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty. Brady laws there, and the whole loophole stuff that they kept talking about. You can't go to the gun show. There's all these loopholes where you can buy a firearm. That's a joke, man. The loophole that they're talking about is individuals selling firearms back and forth to each other without transfer records, which is illegal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not legal. You can only have a loophole to a law if someone is actually obeying the law and getting around something. That's what the loophole means. I mean, they did something that was not illegal to get around what the law said.
Mm-hmm.
If you do something that is illegal and defined as illegal, it is not a loophole. It's breaking the law.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What do laws control, for lack of a better word?
Yeah. They're written for the people that are bad.
But they only affect those that abide by the laws.
Mm-hmm.
They control or enforce. Well, I mean, they control law-abiding people. The people that are not law-abiding don't care about the laws.
Was it saying that used to come out, law-abiding criminal or something like that?
Yeah. One more quote here just for fun. So you had Josh Horwitz. He's an executive director of Educational Fund to Stop Gun Violence, one of these big gun advocate people. And he was upset. Only in America can a 17-year-old grab an assault weapon, travel across state lines, provoke a fight, kill 2 people, and injure another, and pay no consequences. This is what you hear on the news. You see what I mean? And there's no wonder if that's all you heard. That's a terrible statement. I would think that would be bad too.
It's pure propaganda, so far from the truth.
The other thing that they are not telling you, this is another reason why we need to be able to maintain our Second Amendment right, which, by the way, is a right, is it not?
Mm-hmm.
It's still there. We should be able to arm ourselves. And if we wanted to form a well-organized militia, we ought to be able to do that too, by the way, because that's in there. But there are a lot of things that are getting ready to start happening if something doesn't change quickly, where we're going to need it.
Mm-hmm.
And, for instance, the FBI has been turned into a strong arm of the government, and it should never done that. They are using the FBI for political gain. Bad. They are using the FBI to attack the First Amendment by raiding all these people's houses that are reporters, and they're gathering information so that they can tell us what's happening, the truth, and they're stealing it from them, and shutting them down, and they're trying their best to scare them to death. James O'Keefe and Project Veritas.
And they got Peters too.
And they got Peters, the people from Colorado.
Yep, the whistleblower.
Yep. They started raiding on, and they take everything. They take all their electronics and their phones, and that's so they can find out who the information is coming from and where they're getting it, so they can go to that person's house and shut them up. It is to silence people. And you can't use law enforcement to silence people. You can't use a government. I agree with this statement 100%. As one man said, if you're running for office in 2022 or 2024 and you don't have a platform that says I want a abolishment or a total rebuild of the FBI, then you ought not vote for that dude, because it is out of control. Government police own the citizens, and not like government police to protect and serve. I'm talking about government police to take away your rights. So if they can do that with the First Amendment, what are they going to do with the Second?
I got to mention Roger Stone, man.
Go ahead.
I mean, the way that they did him, and CNN was there to film all of it. How much more political can you get than that?
The same thing happened with James O'Keefe and Project Veritas. They took all of his phones and his electronics. The next day, the New York Times wrote an article about what was on his phone.
FBI has to be contacting them.
You can't do that.
Film this.
Can't do that.
Man, that's bad.
James O'Keefe said within 2 hours of them leaving, He got a phone call for comment.
They're all tied together.
It's out of control. That's inside of our country that they're attacking us.
We may be next.
Yep. Could be next. Yeah, we could be next. Is somebody outside right now? I hear something. Arm yourselves, men.
We are. We got plenty.
Yeah. The other thing that worries me to death right now, that which nobody's talking about, is this: there is a looming threat coming from China right now on the United States. It is not pretty.
What's the threat? Because I've heard a little bit about it, but I don't know what it is.
So, the threat comes, because we've got a pansy as our leader.
Yeah.
Right. He's like, nobody is worried about Joe Biden. By the way, this is a side note. It is not on topic, but I can't even hardly stand it. He went to the doctor this week, his first physical while he was in office. And the doctor says, now I got to pee. And the doctor says, Joe Biden is absolutely capable, physically fit enough to take on all the duties of the presidency. And all I could think to myself was, how much do they have to pay that dude to write that kind of statement? I mean, is he seeing what I'm seeing?
Probably nothing. They were probably just like, we'll take away your medical license. And he was like,
Yeah. FBI was standing out there with battering rams waiting for him to see what he wrote down. Yeah. He's not fit. Bam. Give me all them notes. Can't say that. That's about what it's like. Anyway, so the threat coming from China, one, we have a pansy who they're not afraid of at all.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, in his most recent conversation with the China people, he never even mentioned the Rona and it being their fault.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we have undeniable proof that it was created in the Wuhan lab. They knew about it, didn't say nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Fauci paid for it. Falsy. All right, so that's one reason. Second reason is they have this technology. It's actually part of the reason why Donald Trump did the Space Force thing, and it's this rocket thing that is a supersonic, whatever you call it, flies around the Earth. Hold on, I'll find it here in a second. I'll post this too. It's an article. Intelligence officials warn China could launch surprise attack on the U.S. And they have this missile that orbits the Earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
5 times the speed of sound. And then what it does is it releases gliders that can go within 20. It says 20 miles of their target. That seems like a long ways, but drop a nuclear bomb 20 miles from here and see what happens. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And supposedly these things are so technologically advanced that we have a hard time picking them up on radar, which means our missile defenses, maybe they'll work, maybe they won't.
Yeah.
Is it Kevin McCarthy? Is he the House guy from North Carolina? Kevin McCarthy? I heard an interview that he did the other day, and James O'Keefe, the morning show, 106.1. And he asked him, is it really that big a deal, or are we further along advanced in being able to defend ourselves than we admit?
Mm-hmm.
Because, you don't ever want to give away your full hand, right? He says probably a little bit of both. He said we're probably way further along than we're willing to admit, but it is not untrue that they caught us off guard.
Mm.
That's worrisome.
Mm-hmm.
Is McCarthy from North Carolina?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's McCarthy. I think it's his name. Kevin McCarthy. It is a North Carolina guy, though.
Okay.
Who hopefully in 2022 will be the House Speaker. That'd be phenomenal. Anyway, so get ready for that, because the reason why we fight wars in other countries is because we don't want a war in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
You remember 9/11, don't you? I remember it. A lot of people forgot.
Yeah,
I remember it.
I remember it.
That was war in the United States, and that was bad. Terrible bad.
Yeah.
You don't want that happening here. That was one day.
Yeah.
One day. Imagine that for years. No. I used to train people in the concealed carry class, and there was a lot of things that you had to be able to prove in order to justify the use of deadly force in self-defense that are written in laws, which pretty much are uniform across all states. There may be some slight variations in them, but the main one that would take away, that would change it from a self-defense and a justifiable killing and turn it into either a manslaughter or second-degree murder, or even, first-degree murder is not in the books because you thought about that and you went in there and you killed somebody. You know what I mean? That's different. But there are different ones that you get in a confrontation. Me and Andrew are arguing, and I get tired of listening, and so he just wants to get it over with, so he shoots me in the face. I mean, that's not necessary. The first thing is there has to be an imminent threat of great bodily harm, death, great bodily harm, or sexual assault. By the way, you could use that as well. Mm-hmm. And so, imminent in Johnson County terms means fixing to, fixing, about to happen. And Kyle Rittenhouse didn't fire a single shot until he was fixing to get had. Mm-hmm. In fact, he got had a couple of times before he fired shots. Great bodily harm. He got hit in the head with a skateboard.
With a rock first.
A rock first.
Then the skateboard.
You have to believe that there is an imminent threat.
Mm-hmm.
Got to believe it. And all I can tell you is I would contend that anyone who's standing around and there's gunshots being fired, either at him directly or just in his vicinity, and then here comes, Super Ninja Man, drop kicks you in the head, some dude smacking you in the head with a skateboard.
And you're only 17.
I'd feel like there was a little bit of a threat coming there, Yeah.
And we can't overlook the guy holding his hands up. He didn't shoot.
Nope. Yeah, and the one guy, he actually testified to that. So you're saying that when you had your hands up in the air, he didn't fire a shot. That's correct.
But when he pointed the gun.
You're saying when you lowered your hands and you pointed the gun at him, that's when he fired the shot. That's correct. He said so right on this thing. Anyway, so there's a lot that comes with self-defense, and I think that is the biggest difference between a killing and a murder. The other thing we hadn't talked about we could hit real quick is, what about the war? The government tells you to go off to war. Is that killing or murder?
Killing.
Because the government doesn't yield the sword in vain, right? That's capital punishment and war, isn't it? Mm-hmm. You just become the sword at that point. I think we have rules of engagement as well, too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Geneva Convention.
Yep. So you have rules of engagement which specify how to happen. By the way, there were a lot of instances in Scripture where God gave the command for the people to go in and pretty much annihilate another people group.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that not a bad God?
Because he's a just God, but he also predetermined.
Those wipeouts were not undeserved either.
Mm-hmm.
They had a long time to make it right, didn't they?
They were killing babies.
Boy, he's reading my mind. So you have
these were not friendly nations.
They had plenty of time. They had plenty of warning that what they were doing was wrong and they should stop it. That what they were doing was offending God. And they chose not to and to continue killing babies. This is what makes China nervous to me. Mm-hmm. Because God didn't come down out of heaven himself, go over there and wipe them out. He sent a nation. Mm-hmm. And that nation was sent by God, backed by God, to correct the problem.
Mm-hmm. And God has done that to his own nation.
God has done that to Israel.
He's not a respecter of persons.
Yep. He's reading my man. That's absolutely
did
right.
In Genesis, did it in Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities all around it. Yep.
So what's to say if we want to call ourselves God's country, which we do a lot, right? Mm-hmm. What's to say that he won't use another country to come correct our problem?
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
We have a problem because we walked away from what made us a great country,
Yep.
which was God. Last point. God also gave those commands to go take out nations. When's the last time you have heard God speak audibly, go to war?
I've never heard God speak audibly.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I don't remember. Yeah, let's think about it. And my point is that, there was time through the Old Testament where, God was speaking directly to individuals and telling them what to do.
That must have been so nice.
Man, you don't have to wonder, right? Yeah. Probably didn't sound like that.
I don't know. Should I do this?
Yes.
Alrighty, we got a yes.
Yeah. But wars continue to rage constantly, And so I know that some wars probably would be wars that would seem and probably could be justifiably called bad, unnecessary. There's a lot of those wars raging like that. But I think as far as a soldier goes, he's not held accountable like murder for killings that take place during war when he was subject to his government. Because aren't we supposed to be subject to our government? Only sometimes, just sometimes, not always.
They don't bear the sword in vain.
Yep.
Michaela and I, when we were coming back from Goldsboro yesterday, we listened to a Candace Owens, one of her talks on, I think it was Facebook, which she apologized for it being so late after the trial, but she's been fighting to try to get it out. But Facebook has been blocking it out, and social media has been, no, you can't say that, can't say that. But man, Joseph Rosenbaum and even the guy that kind of kicked it all off, who was he? The guy that...
The dropkick guy?
No, not that guy. The Black Lives Matter thing that kind of kicked it all off.
Oh, I know you're talking about that Carl guy or something like that.
No, I'm talking about the guy that got his, I can't breathe.
George Floyd.
Yeah, George Floyd. Yeah. Like,
that's what started the riot thing in Smithfield, yeah.
Like, these are bad dudes. Like not, man, he's such a manly guy. No, he is like bad, evil. And isn't there a statue for George Floyd right now?
Oh, yeah, there's a statue.
Yeah.
Several
statues out for someone who is super evil. Crazy time we live in, man.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. The Bible actually talks about times like this. Wars, rumors of wars. Yes will be no, and no will be yes.
Oh, man, please. Please come back.
Yeah, I know, but it could be ugly, man. Think about it. We are very much like the Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
I don't think we're far off from that.
Well, I think we've talked about a fourth of the subject, so.
Yeah, if we sort of just braced it. The basic that what we should all take away from this is this. Don't go ninjing nobody don't deserve ninjing. Am I right?
Yeah, I like it.
It's basically gospel right there.
Pretty much. You don't get any better.
I hope we've said enough to perk your interest.
Yeah. Don't go ninjing nobody don't need ninjing now.
Thank you for listening to the League of Logic podcast. If you haven't already, please check out our website. Also have an app. Check out those. And please leave us a rating and review. It would go a long way in getting the word out. Also subscribe to our channel. We've got it on YouTube and on Rumble. We also have a store that you can get some of our merchandise, League of Logic, t-shirts, sweaters. Check it out. I believe there is a button for that in the website. You can go to the store from there. Also, any of the things that we've talked about today, look it up, study it for yourself, read the Bible yourself, and learn how to think. Thank you for listening to the League of Logic podcast, and we look forward to you tuning in on the next episode.